Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are having a great Sunday. And I'm super excited for today's live Q&A with co-founder Dr. Jenna Hua of the company Million Marker. As a fertility doctor, I'm always wondering, what can I do to give my patients the best chance of having the healthiest embryos? And often I'm just so surprised sometimes by the outcomes of certain IVF cycles. And I'm just like, I just don't understand. Like, why are these embryos not as gorgeous as I would have expected them to be? And a lot of that has to do with egg quality and sperm quality. So I'm constantly looking to the literature. What can I do to make things even better for my patients? And it seems like more and more evidence is pointing to the environment. So for years, I've been looking for some way to measure environmental toxin levels in my patients. And finally, I found that way. And so I reached out to Dr. Jenna Hua and I said, look, I saw your test online and I want to learn more about you, your company. And she is just as passionate about what she does as I am about what I do. And you're going to feel it when we start talking here in a second. I had her on recently on a YouTube show that I did. So do tune into that show too to learn a little bit more about the specifics. But I had a lot of patients of mine and other people in my audience reach out with questions about environmental toxins and their fertility, egg quality, sperm quality. And we're going to get into all these details this morning. So let me just see. Here she is now. I'm going to bring her on right now. And then I have so many questions for her, and we're going to talk about her company, the test, what it measures. Hi, Jenna. How are you this morning?
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate it. So for our audience, just tell us about yourself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna. I'm the founder of Million Marker. I was a dietitian and environmental health scientist before founding Million Marker. And I completed my PhD at UC Berkeley and postdoc at Stanford. And my research in the past have been looking at how environment impact people's health. It was through my research and my personal fertility struggles made me realize that we need a service like Million Marker to help people adopt a healthier lifestyle and have better fertility outcomes. And then so we can do something about it.
Absolutely. So tell us about your test. I have a kit here, the Million Marker kit. So tell us about it, how it works, where people can get it.
Yes. So right now we offer a BPA and phthalate test. As Amy said, you can order a kit online and send us your urine sample. We get it tested and give you a detailed report back. So this detailed report tells you your levels, how you compare to others, and what you can do about it. So before you take the test, we also ask you to answer an exposure survey that captures your diet and your product use. And we're going to do a detailed diet and product recall, trying to identify these sources for you. So yes, the kit looks like this. I also got one here.
Okay.
So you will receive also instructions that on these cards. This is still considered our prototype kit. So the process is still a little bit manual, but eventually we're updating our app and we're changing to a smaller kit that looks a little bit better. And it'll be more convenient for people to use. So right now people can order the tests online and then we'll send you the kit.
And then what happens afterwards? So they get the results. What should people expect to learn from the results, and what kind of actionable plan can they take from there?
So usually the results for these chemicals, we compare your levels with other Million Marker users as well as the national average. So you definitely want your level to be below 50th percentile. That means that below the average levels. So note that there's no safe levels for these chemicals. They have no business to be in your body. So you want to reduce it as low as possible. And because the sources of these chemicals are usually from diet and from personal care product use, so that's where the actionable results comes into, that we personally tailor your exposure and then tell you how you can reduce these exposures.
And then people can do the test again, right? To kind of
yes, exactly.
After the recommendations you've made have worked.
Yes, exactly. So the other thing I also want to point it out that the more people were doing the tests, you're also contributing the science and then helping everyone to understand these chemical impact on fertility, on health.
Right. I actually think that your test, I mean, you called the company Million Marker. I mean, I think it can help literally millions of lives. And
Yes.
I am just so excited to talk more with you this morning. And I have so many questions for you, and I hope people will learn a ton from us. Are you ready? Here's some of the questions
Yes.
that people sent in. We
All
got a
right.
whole bunch of questions. So the first
Fire it.
question is, one thing that's on everyone's mind is COVID-19. And we've heard so much about hand sanitizers. You're the best person to answer this question. The FDA just warned against 5 more brands of hand sanitizer that contain methanol. Why does this even matter?
So the usual hand sanitizer you're supposed to have contains ethanol, not methanol. So methanol is actually really toxic, and the methanol ingestion or inhaling of methanol has been linked to death, kidney damage. So methanol is not supposed to be used. The reason methanol kind of got into hand sanitizer, one reason is because impurities from ethanol, but this kind of impurity should be very little. What FDA found out is certain product contains up to 85% methanol, and that's not acceptable. So when you're like looking for hand sanitizers, make sure check the ingredients, and the best practice is being able to wash your hands instead of using the hand sanitizer. One other thing to also pay attention is that hand sanitizer, other than the methanol, ethanol kind of issue, you should also worry about other chemicals in hand sanitizers that usually includes, phthalates, fragrance, and then these other things that you should be also pay attention of.
Very good information. The other thing that I find in my patients also is that people are finding ways to relax and de-stress right now. And a lot of times that involves things like THC products and essential oil use. Do those contain toxins that people should know about?
So essential oil and THC is a huge debate. The major issues with these products is because there's no regulation.
Right.
So even if it's labeled organic, sometimes when, especially when for essential oils, when they're not produced in the US, say they're produced somewhere else, the production process is not exactly food grade production. So usually food grade production, they require stainless steel and all these other equipment. But when it's not food grade production, oftentimes they use plastic. When you're trying to heat up plastic, stuff leaching to these products. So this is something to be aware of.
Yeah. And what are some reasons why people should avoid plastics?
Okay, plastic is it's a huge debate for people. The reason to avoid plastic is that plastic contains a lot of different chemicals. So one research study have shown that plastic actually contains more than 1,000 different chemicals, and we actually don't know 80% of them. We don't know what it does, and then the safety level of these things. Then the big issue with plastic is because it contains BP and phthalates. These are common plasticizers, and BP and phthalates have been linked to a variety of health problems, including fertility, and they're hormone disruptors. So that's another reason to avoid plastic. We want to because we don't know these unknowns, we want to take a precautionary principle. So we don't want to be sorry, a decade later.
Right. Right. And then there's another term that we're hearing more and more often called forever chemicals. I mean, that sounds like forever sounds like something so endearing, but then you use the word chemicals. I don't know that that's endearing.
Exactly. So forever chemical, it's been in news a lot in the last year or so. Okay. These are referred a class of chemicals called PFAS. So it's per fluoro. I have to refer
AS.
to the, yes, exactly. It's a perfluoropolyalkyl substance. Okay. Okay, it's a mouthful. The reason they're called forever chemical is because they last for a long, long time. They don't degrade in the environment. And because they're a class of chemical, they have, small chain, long chain, they have different properties. So it's widely used. It's pretty much used everywhere. And pretty much 100% of the U.S. population, everyone has it in their system. Wow. And PFAS has been shown to be associated with, cancers, diabetes. It's also a hormone disruptor, and obviously have to do with fertility. So it's definitely on everyone's radar, and you should avoid it as much as possible.
give us some examples. Where can we find a forever chemical? You say, I have it, I've been exposed to it, it's in my system right now. Where would I be getting it from?
So it's usually being produced using, one of the properties for these chemicals are producing they're non-stick. So you find them in non-stick pans. You find them in raincoat. You can find them in personal care products as well. And these we're also exposed to, because they're so prevalent in the environment, we're also exposed to them through air and through dust and through water. Drinking water is also a big source.
Okay, so filter your water. What are some things people can do to eliminate or decrease their exposure to forever chemicals?
Yes, so water filter is a big one. So and also not all the water filter are created equal. So the best research study have shown the best water filter to filter out PFAS is a two-step reverse osmosis filter. So I think those are the filters, that the bigger bulky filter that you put underneath your sink. So the countertop filter usually is not as effective. So use filter. For product that's free of PFAS, the Green Policy Institute, Green Policy Institute have put together a list of product that's free of PFAS. So that's a really good list to go with. If you want to find more information, we actually put together a PFAS blog on our website that actually have the link to direct to the Green Policy Science Institute.
So then when you say that over-the-counter water filters aren't that effective, do you mean something like a Brita, the Brita water filters that you just put in your fridge or put on your counter?
According to the research study that out of Duke and UNC, they have found the best effective one is, yes, that's two-step. The Brita filter, I think we looked into Brita filter, but Brita filter is pretty good at getting rid of BPA, stuff like that, but not so much for PFAS.
Got it. So you've mentioned endocrine disrupting chemicals, EDCs, a number of times this morning. Can you tell us a little bit more about them and how specifically they can affect IVF outcomes?
So EDC, the reason we call it EDC, endocrine disrupting chemical, is because they interfere with your natural hormones. So EDCs are, it's a class of chemicals that they have different action. They could pose different actions. They could be mimicking your natural hormones. It could be blocking your natural hormones. It could be blocking the enzyme, and it could alter the levels. And then think EDC as because your hormone act as very, very tiny amount, and EDC does exactly the same thing. Think about like one drop of water in a 25 size Olympic swimming pool. That's how much it requires to cause any impact.
So that's a tiny bit. That's tiny. One drop in a big swimming pool, if you're exposed to that, that's a lot. I mean, that's a tiny bit to think that small amount could affect something so important. Okay.
Exactly. So that's why we want to avoid. There's already a lot of research studies showing that EDCs not just impact fertility, but IVF is a huge one. Think about your typical IVF process, right? You need to ingest hormones, and it's a really, really fine balance. And research have shown that EDCs could impact the timing of IVFs, and then the implantation of the eggs, and as well as the egg quality. So these are the things to be pay attention of.
And what about sperm? Do they affect sperm quality as well?
Oh yes. So phthalates is a big one. Phthalates actually blocks testosterone, which obviously have impact on sperm. And in fact, like male fertility have decreased in the last 4 decades so much that people's sperm count is decreasing. And then this scientists believe other than lifestyle, this has a huge chemical exposure has a huge impact on sperm quality.
Right. And then if you're saying it can affect egg quality, sperm quality, then obviously it's affecting the whole embryo, and there must be some sort of impact on a pregnancy. What kinds of things could these exposures do to a pregnancy?
So the developing fetus is actually the most vulnerable part of this whole equation. And developmental timing really matters, particularly in early pregnancy. And research have already shown that these chemicals actually have they can cross the placenta barrier and actually get to the fetus.
Mm-hmm.
And research have also shown that these chemicals could even have a transgenerational effect. That means, your grandmother's exposure could have impact on, your grandmother's exposure could have impact on you. So it's really important for pregnant women to avoid these chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you don't want to be sorry 10 years later. These chemicals are not going to kill you tomorrow.
Right.
But these chemicals could contribute to a condition that you could have 10, 20 years from now, as well as your growing fetus.
Perfect. And can you give us like 3 or 4 tips that a pregnant woman or a woman trying to conceive, give us some tips as far as like what they can do today that they might not already know to do to decrease their exposure?
So a few things, actually many things.
Yeah.
The first is to avoid plastic as much as possible. Right. Again, but don't get too stressed out because plastic we can't get rid of it, but trying to avoid it as much as possible. Also know that there are differences between, bio-based plastic, biodegradable plastics. So if you have to use plastic, choose the plastic that's compostable. That's that guarantees it's bio-based and biodegradable. Mm-hmm. So that's one tip. The other one is BPA usually are on coatings of canned food. So avoid as much canned food as possible. BPA are also coated on thermal receipt. So don't touch your receipt. So if you have to touch receipt, then, wash your hands after. The other one is choosing personal care products. So personal care product, avoid perfume or avoid fragrance on the product label. Avoid other chemicals that are also endocrine disrupting chemical. Typical ones are triclosan. Triclosan has the antibacterial properties. Usually a lot of time could be in toothpaste, could be in, hand sanitizers. Also paraben is another one, also have antibacterial property. Also for sunblocks, avoid benzophenol. I know it's a lot of chemical to remember, but there are like lists that people have put together. We also have put together approved list of products, so people can check out on our website. So it's not so overwhelming to having to remember and read labels.
And what's your website name?
So our website is www.millionmarker.com. Once you go to our website, you can check out our approved product list, and this list contains, oral product, oral hygiene product, shampoos, conditioners, deodorant, hair products, as well as soaps and lotions.
Perfect. So you mentioned something about fragrances. So I don't spray it on my neck. I'm actually very sensitive. Like you can't tell, I don't think right now, but I have a big rash on my neck that I've covered up. Even the mask, like the cotton of the mask, I get lines and a rash. So that's why I spray my fragrance if I'm going to wear it just on my shirt. Would that be an exposure? Just having it on my clothes and it's not on my skin because my skin's not absorbing it? I'm still smelling it. What do you think about that? I don't know if you can answer it, but I'm just wondering.
The exposure could be low, but there is still exposure because how we get exposed to these chemicals, yes, thermal, like through your skin is one, ingestion is another one, but also smelling through the gas phase, it's also another one. Okay. I think one thing to know is that we don't want to take the fun out of people, right? Like if you have to use a little bit, don't get so stressed out about trying to avoid it as much as possible. Because stress also, too much stress is obviously also not good.
Yeah, I like my perfume. I wear it very rarely, but it's good to know I can still use it. Thank you. So when I look for something and if I have a plastic container, I look for something that says BPA free. What does that really mean?
Okay, so yeah, BPA has been in a lot of debate. When a product that's labeled BPA free, it's usually labeled by the manufacturer. We actually don't have a regulation or government body to actually regulate what's called BPA free or not. Europe has this regulation. So when Europe regulate BPA free, it usually means the product contains less than 0.05 milligrams per kilograms of BPA in the product. Right. But if you think about it, less than 0.05, I mean, it's an arbitrary number, but it's still there. So if you think about if you eat a lot of canned food, even though it's BPA free, if it's less that level, if you eat a lot, it's still gonna accumulate. So BPA free, yes, it's a good label. It's good to know it's BPA free, but people should still pay attention trying to avoid plastic. Right. One other thing is a lot of time when manufacturers saying it's BPA free, it doesn't mean it's BPA alternative free. So now manufacturers have started using BPS and BPF. It could be many other bisphenols, and they could cause the same exact effect as BPA. That doesn't, BPA free probably doesn't mean as much. And this is also a point that why when we, before when we were talking about the forever chemicals, we're trying to push the government agency to actually regulate these chemicals as a class. So then we don't have this alternative problem. Because for BPA, right, we have regulated that for certain product, especially for, baby sippy cups and all these things that we have regulated has to be BPA free. But because we regulated this one chemical, but we did not regulate the whole bisphenol class, now that we have an issue of, BPS and BPF coming out of it.
Right. Well, that's why it's important to have you, because you're going to keep everyone honest. Now that we have a product or a test that people can do, I imagine that maybe some of these companies are scared to be outed.
That would be our mission, to actually create a safer environment for everyone.
I love it. Okay, so I'm always reminding patients, and you talked about it a little bit, to stay hydrated. I mean, if you know me and you're a patient of mine, I'm really annoying when it comes to these reminders. Rest, hydrate, pee. Rest, hydrate, pee. When you're going through IVF, that's like what I tell patients over and over. How important is the container that you store your water in? And I'd love to hear, because I know we just talked about BPA free. What is your go-to container that you would use if it were you?
So the go-to container, I think the safest one is use a glass container. But glass have the issue of breaking. So the next alternative I would choose is stainless steel. Okay. When you choose stainless steel, also make sure the coating of the stainless steel, the wall of the bottle, does not contain any of these toxic chemical resin. So for stainless steel, we have checked with different manufacturers. Swell and Hydro Flask are good alternatives. Okay. And for glass container, especially for baby bottles, we have looked into blanking out on the brand. I can tell you. Yeah. Life Factory is a good alternative one for baby bottles, and that's made of glass. Great.
And then the other thing that I remind my patients to do is to take supplements. So egg quality supplements, sperm quality supplements, and a lot of people out there are also taking sports supplements. Are there any toxins in these supplements that people should be aware of, and how do they know?
Supplements is a whole new debate. So supplements, one thing to be worried about is the capsule of the supplements, because many of the capsule could be made of phthalates. That's actually a lot of time a major ingredient for capsules. So when we are telling our users, a lot of time is if you can choose liquid supplement rather than capsule-based supplement, trying to choose liquid supplement. There are also certain labels you can look on supplement. One of them is called NSF. NSF is an agency that actually tests for purity and also safety of supplements, even though they don't test for the chemicals that endocrine disrupting chemicals we're testing, but at least they're testing for heavy metals and others. So that's one NSF label, as well as look for liquid supplement.
And are there any other places that people might not realize that they might be exposed, like any dental work they might have had, like a filling or a plastic retainer? Could there be any exposure that people aren't even thinking of that could be affecting things?
That could be, because for dentures and also like fillings, in the past, it has to be BPA have used in these products. But that's a debate that it has to do with the whole dental industry. And sometimes you just cannot avoid it. So if you cannot avoid it on one thing and then trying to avoid on others, so you don't get this cumulative exposure.
Right. And then one of the questions my patients ask me all the time, especially when they're pregnant, are what is a safe skincare product I can use in pregnancy, and why is that important?
So for skincare product, you definitely want to choose skin product without any hormone disrupting chemicals. And as I mentioned before, there are so many of them. And again, we have accumulated this list on our website that you can check out. It's not very overwhelming. One other big debate is makeup. Makeup is hard. It's very hard because there are so many ingredients and color that goes into it. The good news is now there are clean beauty movement. There are several companies that are trying to address this issue by decreasing toxic chemicals in makeup products. Couple examples: Beauty Counter is leading the way to have clean beauty like makeups. Cradle Beauty is also a good one, as well as Naked Poppy. It's another one that they have their standard, and they're also looking into sourcing of the ingredients. So these are the brands that people could look for.
And do you have any creative things people can do at home? Let's say for a mask. I mean, I've heard of people doing stuff like that. Do you have any cool ideas?
Yes, so we actually have several of our staff are really into this. Things that you can use: aloe vera is a good one, honey is a good one, adding turmeric powder, also shea butter, olive oil. These are very natural products that could be good for your skin and you can definitely use.
Okay, cool. I want to talk a little bit about environmental racism. Can you talk a little bit about that, or a lot about that, and why it should be important to all of us?
Environmental racism, so this is sourced from environmental justice. So environmental justice means that people should have the same, like a safe environment everywhere. But this is actually not what we're observing. So research studies have shown that people of color and Black communities have lived in near freeways and where they get a lot of air pollution exposure. Also, people of color are also exposed to more toxic chemicals through personal care products than others. So these are sort of the environmental injustice that we have, that we should address. And then this whole environmental injustice could also expand to the whole climate change. The reason we should care is the environment, the larger environment actually impact all of us. Right? By changing the environmental injustice talk, then that's actually benefit for everyone, not just certain populations, but it's actually for everyone.
Great. Thank you, Jenna. So before we go back, I want to talk a little bit about your kit one more time before we close, but I would love to hear your favorite, let's say, toothbrush product, toothpaste product, your personal favorite water bottle, deodorant, hair care, makeup, and lotion. Ready?
Yes.
Toothbrush. What's your favorite toothbrush?
Toothbrush, my favorite is two brands. I love Gaia Guys and I love the Hello brand. So the Gaia Guys, they're actually the first one I was able to find that's completely biodegradable. Bamboo stem plus wild boar hair for the bristle. So completely biodegradable. Hello toothbrush, we also have confirmed that they are BPA alternative free. So those are my two favorite for toothbrush. Hello brand also have a list of other oral care toothpaste and then others that are my favorite. For water bottles, I have been using Hydro Flask. Mainly probably because I got it for free as promotional from my husband's company. So that's good. If you're at home, obviously you drink from your mug and then from your glassware. For makeups, I don't use a lot of makeup, but for if I have to choose one, I would choose either from Beauty Counter or Credo. So let's see what else.
Deodorant.
Deodorant. What we found is there's one brand called Purely Greatly is a good one, and also Native is a good one. It doesn't contain any aluminum, and it doesn't contain any hormone disrupting chemicals. And I saw that the Grateful Dead has come out with an organic line of deodorant. Does organic mean toxin free? Not necessarily, or does it? Organic not necessarily mean
Okay.
toxin free. Organic means it could be certain products could be pesticides free, and then but it doesn't necessarily mean. And this is exactly the same debate that we actually don't have a good answer, especially for say essential oil. Essential oil could be organic, but it doesn't mean the processing actually make them toxin free.
Okay. So what about hair care products? What's your favorite?
Hair care product, I think I like 100% pure. That's a good one that I have been using. But obviously there are many other ones out there. I have friends, our senior scientist, she's got curly hair, and then it has been really hard for her to find something that works for curly hair. And that might be this one or two ingredient that's not good for curly hair. But if that works for you, then, you know, don't stress out too much if that's the only one works for you. So trying to reduce your exposure somewhere else.
Right. What about lotion? And last one, toothpaste.
Toothpaste, I use the Hello one.
Okay.
For lotions also have many other ones. I think Beauty Counter has a good one, and one other small brand that we previously worked with called Ever Eden. They're also trying to promote for clean beauty, clean lotion, so they're pretty good too.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll through to see if we have any live chat. I want to see what the live chatted questions are. So here's another question. Safe pots and pans. What's your recommendation for that?
Safe pots and pans. So safe pots and pans, you definitely want to avoid PFAS chemicals. Okay. So that list that I mentioned before from Green Science Policy Institute, you can find it from our blog. You can find the brand that actually is PFAS free.
Okay. And then I have a couple questions about I can't say the word specific companies and products, but I don't know if you can share the Honest Company products. How safe are they? And EO products. Not sure if you can comment about that.
I don't know so much about EO products, but for Honest Company product, we have found some questionable ingredients in there. So Honest Company wasn't on our list, but I know they're a popular brand. So this is where I think about where the stress comes into. Right. If you have used it for a long time and if you're trying to make a safer choice, if it's stressing you out too much, trying to search for things, then trying to stick to relatively clean product rather than completely not clean. So that's one. The other one is why we're trying to promote our individual testing is that everyone responds very, very differently to chemicals. And that's part of the reason why we're trying to promote personalized testing, because what we have observed is that some people can get rid of these chemicals much faster than others. Right. So if you're someone who cannot get rid of them as fast, then by all means, you should avoid them as much as possible. But if you actually can get rid of them really fast, then, you know, if you use your favorite thing, maybe that's your favorite perfume, then that's okay.
Right. And then one last question is, what's your favorite body lotion or hand lotion during the summer? And what I would like to ask you is SPF. What's your favorite sunscreen?
My favorite sunscreen is from Badgers. So Badger, I have used a lot of Badger products, and they're, I think they're family owned. They're based in New Hampshire, made in the US, USDA organic. So that has been my go-to sunblock and oils as well, facial oils.
Great. Okay, Jenna, tell us about Million Marker, where people can get the kit, the test, how it's done, what the results tell them.
Okay, so you can get the test kit from our website, www.millionmarker.com. Once you order, we'll send you a test kit. The test kit will include a P-cup, also a return label for the product, as well as the instruction. We ask you to answer the exposure survey before you're taking the urine test. This is how we personalize your report. And we'll get your samples analyzed in our own lab. And the results will tell you your levels, how you compare to others. And then we tailor the recommendation from your survey based on your results to give you actionable feedback of how you can reduce these levels. And once you see the report, you can change your lifestyle, change your product, and then come back and get tested again to confirm, you know, whether your level have reduced.
Perfect. And for those of you who are fertility patients out there, the reason why I I reached out to Jenna to have her come talk to us is because everyone asked me, how can I improve my egg quality? And it has to do with age, genetics, and the E is environment. So I've created an easy way of remembering like how to improve egg quality and what contributes to it. And that's the word age, 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 genetics, environment. And so the environment has to do with everything that Jenna is talking about. So you guys have a great website, great blog. Your Instagram feed is full of really helpful tips. And I love that you call out companies that you believe in and trust, because I don't have time. You have a PhD in this kind of stuff. So it's nice to know what you think is safe for you and your family so that I can then do, similar things as far as a bamboo toothbrush with, what was it, boar hair bristles?
Wild boar hair.
Wild boar hair bristles. I love it. Well, I'm looking for toothbrushes. I might have to buy some today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's
Well,
definitely our mission to help people reduce these exposures, and then also understand the science, like why we should care, and then also in a really simple way of how to understand these things.
Right. I mean, with more plastics found in the sea, we know they'll end up in our bodies. They're going to be in our food source, and ultimately in our systems as well. And they can not just contribute to infertility, but other diseases like cancer as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jenna, thank you for your time this morning. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that our audience learned a ton. And you guys, please share this show and what we talked about widely, because I don't think the message is out, right, Jenna? I don't think this message is out quite yet.
No.
I think people know about it, but they just don't know what things they can do to reduce their toxin load on a day-to-day basis. And it's pretty simple. I mean, we talked about, toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorant, lotions, makeup, water. I mean, it's as simple as that, right?
Yes. Also trying to eat out less. I think COVID has made everyone doing a lot of takeout. Think about the takeout containers that you're using. And that's not just like polluting yourself, but also obviously polluting the environment.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for everything. I hope to have you back on. We got so many great questions today, and I'm sure we're going to get more after this show. And for those of you who are watching, I'm going to do a live Q&A just related to fertility this Tuesday at 4 p.m. I have my classes still with room, the Egg Whisperer School. We have the IVF class, the Tushy class, the egg freezing class. So please shine up too. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Jenna, same to you. Thank you so much for all you do. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Bye, Jenna.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.